We are live. Episode 95.
Don't say
the
fuck or
RT
bugger.
show. You can say whatever you want on this, man. How are you? Colin Byrne, aka Serpico Ninja.
I'm fantastic, John. Thanks for asking. Not many people ask.
Yeah.
I heard a good way to ask somebody how they are. You ask them 3 times. Because if I say to you, "How you doing, John?" You're like, "Not too bad." "Alright, grand."
Yeah.
So we ask you again, "How's things with you, John?" "And what's going on with you, John?" And then, if you really want to know, ask them 3 different ways. So, how you doing? What's going on with you? How's things with you?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a automatic response.
Yeah. Grand.
Not
Right.
too
Flat to
bad.
the mat.
How fucking bad are you?
Or my favourite one is, how are you? Fine. Fucked up, insecure, neurotic and emotional.
I'll take that one.
I'm fine.
I am fine.
How you find the weather being back in Ireland?
Like a duck to water, I suppose. It's you know what it's like? It's like, you know when it's sunny and it's hot, you can't remember what it's like to be cold and miserable. And then when it's cold and miserable, you can't remember what it's like to be lying on the beach somewhere. So you get back, it's just like, yeah, I can remember this.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's not freezing. You know, it's got a bit of cold over the last few days, but it's more the sunlight.
Mm.
Like in Portugal, you just got that full spectrum of light, and here they take a big chunk away when autumn happens, and it never really gets quite bright, you know.
No.
So it's yellowy, you know. It's not that white light, and that's the one thing about Portugal. It gets cold in the winter, like 16 during the day, and if it's sunny and no wind, and you get a little shelter space, you can get your top off, get a bit of fucking UV. But in the winter, it's single digits. You know, it's a hot. What they say, it's a cold country with a hot sun. And but it's good to be back. And mother had her hip done, bone split. She got it done 2 months ago. The bone split. They had to plate it and screw it again, so I came back to look after her. So
It's mad that, isn't it? Our parents, like, I remember me ma and dad, like, they fly around, and now, like, when people are kind of our age now, it's like my ma is getting her second hip done. So she got her first one done up in the sports surgery clinic, and apparently when you get your first one done, it kind of wonks the second one, so she has to get the second one done. So it's kind of, we're hitting that age where stuff starts happening. Our parents, they have to be looked after, you know. Well,
that's the thing. You gotta look. I mean, they look after you long enough, but then you revert back to all the stuff that you tried to get off the hard drive. I've been here too long. Yeah, because like you're brought up with dogma and stigma and stuff that shame on you, all that paddy Catholic shit. That's very, very hard to get off the hard drive.
Yeah.
And you're worried about what the neighbours will think, or what other people will think of you, or what the priest will say, or all those little things that you were brought up with.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then through adulthood, you find your own little way. You kind of rewrite the fucking programme.
Yeah.
But there's still all these little things that you haven't kind of dealt with yet. And then you blast back and you're in your mother's for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then she's talking to you like you were when you were 7.
It all comes rushing back.
And you start to fall into all this work that you've done,
Yeah.
start to kind of fester up again. But also the lessons are you start to recognise it a little bit better. More so than realising that you have changed a lot. Whereas I always had this thing where I've never changed in life. I'm always the same. From the earliest memory, and only recently I've realised how much I have changed, and in that how much I've outgrown other people that were friends of yours.
Yeah.
And that's a hard one. So say someone's friends of yours 20 years.
Yeah.
How often do you see them? How often do you hang out with them? You might have hung out with them 20 years ago, or you might have gone on holidays once a year, but you don't really you're not really tight with them really. And then finally you're blasted in with them 20 years later and you realise he's over there and you're over here.
Yeah.
And that's a hard one to admit to yourself, to be honest, say, look, we're just not friends anymore.
Yeah. Now it is.
You know?
It is, because I think we struggle with this loyalty type thing, and it's like a deja vu type thing. Like, I've always been friends with them, we've been through times, but it's like, it's not a bad thing, and they're just going that direction, and I'm at a different stage, and I've gone this direction.
And if you want to continue that direction, you just gotta like cut that little chapter loose, you know. Otherwise you're just trying to gather the flock instead of cutting the dead weight.
And we can go this toxic positivity route of I just cut them out or whatever. It's
No.
just now our lives are just going in.
Yeah, you
in
might bump
different
into them back
directions.
again. You know, like maybe they end up on the same little track as you later on. But right now they're over there. Just leave them over there and you can't continue on with what you're doing.
Yeah. Wish them well and give them a wave.
Well, that's it. Still be courteous.
Speaking about waving, so I was talking to you before. So out on the bike, I've go out sporadically every now and again, and when I cycled and when you cycled, cyclists looked like cyclists, and only good ones had really good racing bikes, and they waved to each other, gave each other the salute out on the road. A lot has changed since then.
Yeah, it's just that what's good is more people are into cycling.
Yes.
So when we were doing it, it was very niche. I remember growing up in Crumlin and having to get lycra on me and looking out the door before I'd go out the door. You know, that kind of thing, terrified, because no one did it, you know. John Sheen next door, but that was about it. And I think that's why it was a little bit wavy, because it was so like a subculture.
Yes.
So there was very few people doing it. So you saw another one. Jesus, there's another fucking unicorn.
Yeah,
you wave at it, right?
Yeah.
So what's happened now here is people have a little bit more money than they used to. Spendable money, and there's back to work schemes with bikes and shit like that. So people start getting bikes, and then with the lockdown, I think a lot of people wanted to get out. So how could you get out and just say, you know, just got a bike? So there was a big shortage of bikes. People were buying bikes. People got into bikes, and then once they started with one, they'd upgrade to another, and all of a sudden they're buying a 10 grand bike.
Yeah.
And they're loving going out and riding bike, and even they look like fucking Freds. Freds is this term that we use for people that were just diabolical on a bike.
Yeah.
Usually didn't fit in, because there was certain things that you did. It's like go up the north and there's certain tells that say whether you're Catholic or Protestant, you know, you drink Tennent's or you drink Guinness, you're into the guy, you're this, you know, it's all these little nuances. And with cycling, you had, you know, you shaved your legs, you had your socks a certain length, you had like, there was certain things that you did that really knew you were serious. But it was now you've got all these guys that just, you know, lycras and bellies, and they're out on a bike, and but they're enjoying themselves. They don't understand that they're meant to kind of give you a salute. But there's so many of them.
Yes.
And I don't take it to heart anymore. And if they don't wave, I just shout back cunt. That I usually go cunt, you know, loudly. But that just gets it out of my bag instead of, like, you know, worrying about it. But I think you got to look at it. It's great to see people out riding the bike.
Yes.
And enjoying it for their level of enjoyment. I had this love affair with, what can I say? Love-hate relationship. Like, I always have hated, I say hate's a very strong word. I've always disliked training. I'm a constant battle between sitting on the couch and going to train. Every session I ever go to, even with MMA, I'd get up, get my bag, go to the door, close the door. Get up, get my bag, get into the car, get out of the car, get to the gym, drive back to them, not even go into the gym, constantly. Same with the bike. I'd be all hyped up all day, and then something would just go like that, and I'm not going.
Yeah.
And every time I went on the bike, you'd be the same. It was always to fucking hook yourself out, but there was never any enjoyment in it. You know, you just went out and you found a hill, you went up as hard as you could, and everything was just this slaughter, suffer on the bike. And then when I quit, do you remember when you quit racing?
It's now the exact race time.
Yeah, and I'm the same. I was riding along in a race, I think it was Bohermeen, and I just stopped pedaling. Just went, I'm done. Stopped pedaling, everyone passing by, the bike just came. I didn't even hit the brakes, I waited for the bike to stop. Got off the bike, threw the bike in the Mick Lawless's van, and I never sat in the bike ever for 10 years. And all I wanted to do was ride the Tour de France, and I just realised I just wasn't good enough. And at 23 or 24, that's a hard pill, because at 23 and 24 you think you're invulnerable, you think you're invincible, you're the god, you're this, you're handsome, you're the man, you're never going to die. I'd do anything just to win. And then about 10 years later, someone gave me a fixie. I was like, what the fuck would I want to ride a fixie for?
Yeah.
And I mean, even Sundrive Park was around the corner from us, and we wouldn't even cycle a fixie from, you know, half a kilometre over. We put it in a car. You just you know, I know the tires are a little bit different and all that, but I was like, you can't even stop on a fixie. And then I realised you can't stop anyway. Do you know what I mean? If you're going fucking 40k an hour, you just can't stop.
That's tough.
But on the fixie, I got on it, and then it made me fall in love with the bike again, because I had to look ahead, I had to ride it differently. So I wasn't thinking about the bike riding anymore. I was thinking about how this thing, you got to be a punk to ride a fixie.
Yeah.
Fuck all the rules, no hand signals, in the middle of the road. taking a roundabout on the wrong side, heading towards traffic. You got to have a shirt that's flapping in the wind. You got to be a punk, so you got to ride it differently. And then I had another guy who had all these different types of bikes, like BMX and this. It's like music. Sometimes I like rock music. Sometimes I like classical. Sometimes I like hip hop. Sometimes I like dance. Sometimes I like chill out. But sometimes I like to ride a different bike.
Yeah.
So I have a bunch of bikes that I like to ride now and go out and enjoy it and stop, have a beer, have a sandwich.
Yeah.
Try and kill myself on a descent. Don't wear a helmet.
Yeah.
You know, and then get people fucking blasting for that. And just enjoying the thing of biking. If someone wants to wave back to me, go ahead. If you don't, I'm enjoying myself. So it doesn't concern me too much anymore. I don't get caught into, and that goes back to what we're saying, like what other people think.
Yeah.
And I really like. And here's my morning routine now. Really practicing on not giving a fuck, but you do.
Yes.
So my daily practice is to get up and I put on Speedos, actual Speedos, and I walk to the beach. And I do, because I don't want to wear Speedos, but I want to not give a fuck because it's embarrassing me, right, walking down with Speedos. Like, you know what I mean? So, I'm not in bad shape, so it's not too bad. So, head down, I do Kundalini yoga, I do some stretches, I do Bates oil methods, and I take them off when I get into the water, whether there's people there or not.
Right.
Because it's next level getting into that water with no jocks on.
Yeah. That's different. I've done it a few times.
It feels different.
It's different.
It's very, very different. If you want to swim in the beach every day, take your clothes off.
It's mad what a little bit of material.
Huge difference. Well, not only being in the water, but what you're down thinking, what are people going to think of me not wearing any clothes? They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't give a shit. They might look at you for a second, and you're saying, "Oh, the water's real cold," you know. But it's like, and then
you're not thinking about them when you're in there.
You're not.
Jesus.
Yeah. So it's just I'm doing those things on a daily from the start to actually set myself up for caring less about what people think of me and caring more about what I think of myself. So straight back to the bike. I don't care if they wave back or not. I really enjoy when they do, and in Portugal most people do. And also here's another little thing you might try. I remember I used to watch this filmmaker, and he used to walk along the beach, and he used to have a camera like yours, but on a gimbal. Yeah. And what he would do you'd see people waving at him in all different ways. I was like, how did he set this up? He just walked along the beach in Goa. Yeah. And someone does this, someone does that, someone does this. Yeah. And they're all different. I said, and then he explained how he did it. He started the conversation. Yeah. He did that. And they mirrored it back. He went like that.
They mirrored them.
Yeah, so if you initiate the wave a little bit before,
they'll do the same.
Instead of a little nod, a big kind of hey. It's kind of like there's a thing in Portugal where people get very close to you in the queue for the checkouts. Or if you park a car in the car space away from everybody else, you come out with 2 cars right close. It's one of those things that if you let it get you, so you have to like add some humour into it. So someone in the supermarket is nearly breathing in my neck. Yeah. I put my arm around them and I pretend that I know them. It's like, how's it going, John? And they're like, all right. And they try to pull away, and you just pull that little bit tighter for that second. And then they don't stand very close to you again. Otherwise, you're going to just get angry and fall into that little emotional thing. So when I find myself getting caught in those like lower level frequencies of emotion, I will catch myself mostly and try and put some humour into it. And then it's good for them and it's good for me, and I like to throw curveballs all the time. Because if I throw a curveball, which means I'm going to throw something at you, and if you don't respond well to it, well, I just won't talk to you anymore.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to digest there. It's people will mirror. They will mirror your behaviour. Yeah. Like if you start shouting and roaring at someone, they're not going to be calm. No. You know, so they're going to... It's very
hard to stay calm. Someone puts it... You bark back at it. It's very hard to go, hey, no, listen.
Or sometimes when you initiate that hands out in front and you start speaking calm, they actually tone it down a bit. So they'll mirror how you behave. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then with the cycling thing, with the waving thing, or like if you wave and you're a bit annoyed, or if you're not annoyed, maybe he waves at the second bloke that he meets. He goes, "Oh fuck, I forgot to wave to him." So
but then you're not enjoying the spin. You know, and that's the thing. I've fallen in love with riding a bike again. So when I'm out on the bike, now there's a lot of things have to be in play. It's no wind, no rain, nice warm day. Yes. I'm not going to suffer no more. I've done pissing on my hands trying to fucking heat them up, trying to take my clothes off after being in some shit race where it was hailstones in your face and you're freezing cold and you're crying in the back of a van. Someone has to undress you after an hour waiting on them. Do you know what I mean? Like done all that. Don't need to have that relationship with that bike anymore. It's like life. All of life is relationships. All of it, with everything. Relationships with work, relationships with food, relationships with drink, with people, and they fluctuate. They circle. Sometimes it just becomes this kind of, you know, love-hate thing, you know, where sometimes you just hate life, sometimes you love life, you know, and that reflects on everything. So it's realising that, is it an emotional thing or is it an actual thing? So do I really hate the bike? No, I don't hate the bike. But was there some sort of an emotional attachment to it? Yeah, there was.
Yes.
So I had to get rid of that.
Yeah. And
realise why I sat on the bike in the fucking first place.
But you see, I was talking to an MMA guy who's just after turning pro.
Yeah.
And our relationship with things, I'm listening to you and speaking to you, I had that similar type of relationship with the bike. It wasn't really a love thing when I was trying to be good at it, or towards the end. Because if you're going out for 5 and 6 hours fucking torturing yourself with like-minded individuals around Wicklow or whatever, there's no love in that.
No.
Do you know? Now it's necessary, but there's no love in that. And when you do that continuously, over and over, it's like you're in a bad kind of relationship, but you didn't realise at the time.
Yeah.
But I was talking to this MMA guy, getting back to his story, and he says, I'm not going to do any ayahuasca ceremonies until I make it as a pro, because I need that hate in me to make it. And I was like, man, he's his head screwed on. He's his fucking head screwed on. I got that, you know what I mean? Because that hate and that anger that's inside people, you kind of need that. That's a secret sauce that people don't talk about. Do you know what I mean? That's going to make you get up early to do that to yourself for a couple of hours. Like, there's no love in MMA. Well, you're not going, oh, I love getting punched in the head. It's fucking horrendous. You know, it's tough fucking sport. You know, people are punching you around. You have to get punched around, you know, or you have to beat people up to be good. Yeah, there's loads of training either side of that, but cycling the same. Like, there's no cyclist out there making it into the Tour de France or making it wherever that hasn't tortured themselves endless hours.
That's true, and you kind of have to ask yourself, well, why are you doing it? So usually it's to find your place in the world. Usually it's when you're younger. Usually it's when you're kind of like becoming a man and you want to prove yourself to everyone that you're great.
Yes.
And it's not really about whatever sport it is. It's just people have this thing where they want people to like them.
Yes.
Whereas the love-hate relationship comes because you're not liking yourself. You're not liking yourself for actually who you are. I was never going to ride a Tour de France.
No,
I wasn't. I just wasn't good enough. It's like they're freaks.
Yes.
They just don't look like freaks. Whereas you can tell a 6'3" model because she's 6'3". I'll never be a 6'3" model, but internally those guys are freaks inside with the anatomy and the lungs and the output that he can put out. They're just whatever you do is just not enough. I mean, Lance Armstrong. If I took all the gear in the world and on my best day, and he was on his worst day on no drugs with the flu and COVID, he'd still fucking hockey you.
Yes.
You're just not of that.
No.
So you've presented yourself in a sport where MMA guys want to be in the UFC, bike riders want to be in the Tour de France.
Yes.